Hello and welcome to the Women Writers Festival, the world's largest traveling festival focused on women writing across genres. What a journey it's been, nearly 6 years of having conversations with women who are experimenting with long and short form screenplays, books, novellas, comics, and much more. It's been a fascinating journey to see how women's writing has finally become mainstream. And with every passing year, that continues to be the case. I'm Shelly Chopra. I'm the founder of She the People, and with me is entrepreneur Kishi Arora. Today, we're talking about my new book, which is Sisterhood Economy, and it is power packed with stories, including that of Kishi and many other women, more than 500 women across the country, talking about what determines the economics and why women feel so absent from the heart of the economic process of our country. After all, we're 50% of the population. Then why aren't 50% of us contributing to what will be this $5 trillion economy? So I'm going to dive into many aspects of this book and talk about what really shaped the idea behind that. But as I do that, we'll first talk about how Kishi and women like her and many others are so central to the idea of India's economic future. Kishi, it was wonderful having you on this,
Thank you,
book,
Shelly.
and on at the Women Writers Fest. It's always a pleasure. Talk to me about why do you think we needed to have conversations of women and economy?
I think even if we just deny that we don't need to have this conversation, every household has women, like every household. I mean, I think the foundation of every household is a woman. So if you have someone as a part of the foundation, I think it's necessary that we talk about them. And as time progresses, I think it's also important that we acknowledge that they are part of the foundation. I think many households don't acknowledge that. It's patriarchal society at the end of the day. And I remember having this conversation with a friend who mentioned to me when I would have issues with some things that a couple of my guy friends would say that patriarchy takes very, very long time before it's gone. So just be calm, don't lose your temper on things like this. But I think somewhere the conversation needs to start. So the book really works well for all of us who want to start that conversation.
Indeed, and I think the way Kishi put it, that there are often times we are reminded that patriarchy is going to be around for a long time to come, and no doubt about that. I mean, we've seen decades and decades. I mean, look at India, 75 years of independence. Where are its women? We're still talking about mainstreaming the idea that women and their challenges need to be considered as challenges of human rights, all right? Challenges that need to make it to the front pages of the media coverage. Challenges that many times the answer to economics may not lie in statistics and numbers. And perhaps that's one of the big focus areas of this book, is to try and see what else impacts why we are absent from the economy. And I think that's what we wanted to get into. So, for example, one of the thick chapters of this book is on how single women are rocking it, how women are the caregiving economy, and we need to start putting a price tag to that. Kishi, your entire journey with your mother as a single woman caregiver to her is a really moving story. Talk to us about that journey that you chose.
So my siblings live abroad, and I was living in the US too. And mom fell ill during that time, and I decided I wanted to come home and spend time with them because I'd be away from them. So the caregiving part happened not only just with mom, but with both my parents. And I did lose my father 3 years back, and now it's just my mother I take care of. Um, there are days my siblings will say, just leave and it's okay, she can take care of herself. And a part of me just doesn't allow myself to do something like that because I feel they've done so much for us. I mean, I don't think we understand as a community of people who live in India. We don't understand that parents are not they're not under contract to take care of you. They do it out of sheer love. So why is it that when we grow up, we just want to leave and live our lives and basically just cut them out? The Indian culture is such where we want to take care of families and stuff. So for me, it just came naturally, and I didn't push myself or didn't force myself to do it. And I still live my life, but it is different from my friends or my colleagues, or or my people around me who live a life. They live in different lifestyles. So it is sometimes like almost taxing to explain to them why I still live with my mother. But because I've lived abroad, I'm very clear where I have rules, where my floor is my floor and her floor is her floor, so we don't mix things like that. But it has been a very interesting journey. I She's like a partner to me. She lives in the house, so I discuss everything with her, and I've never really felt weird about it. I actually feel quite nice about it, because I don't think anyone can take care of you the way your mother does. So if I have a bad day and my head is hurting, she's the best person to be around.
It's fascinating. You talk about the idea of spaces, both in the context of mothers and daughters, and mother in laws and daughter in laws. The book tries to pick up stories of women who have made success out of these relationships, which can often find themselves at crossroads, largely because we don't believe in the idea of space. For women in India, that idea of space is almost like, who are you to even ask for it?
True. I mean, we don't, I think if I put it in right words without sort of hurting anyone's feeling, we are not we are not the kind of people who give people space. We've all Everyone's too nosy. They want to know too much. Just my colony I live in, they want to know, why is Kishi still single? Will she ever get married? I mean, these are the kind of questions they ask my mother. And I might come across as a snob, but I don't talk to anyone in the colony. I only have two friends in the colony who are like-minded, and they believe in giving space. And also, I think education helps a lot. They're the only two families that never question me why I'm still single, when do I have plans to marry, or for that reason, what is my life going to be if my mom's not around. Half the time, people are saying, if she's not around, what are you going to do? And I'm like, we're not there yet. When life brings you to that stage, we'll deal with it then. I never could imagine my life without my father, but he's not there anymore. And my mom and I are still living our lives. I think he would want us to do that. So people don't understand such things. And the concept of space doesn't exist. I mean, everyone's too nosy and everyone wants to know too much. So those who don't care to ask come across as cold. Sometimes, like, I come across as cold in my family because I don't want to know anyone's personal life. It's their life, and if they want to share with me, they'll tell me.
Yeah, that's true. And drawing boundaries has been one of the biggest battles women have tried to fight, often with the notion that they need to be more likable. They need to know that, families expect them to do this. This is one of our biggest challenges as modern women. Kanta, nice to see you.
Good to
I
see
know
you.
that.
Sorry for
No,
the
no
confusion in
worries.
the morning.
Kanta Singh from the UN Women India is a power force by herself, and it's just been phenomenal knowing her for years. And in fact, I think many times when I put together efforts like the Sisterhood Economy book, I'm thinking of women who have been doggedly working to help women find their own voice, find their space, find their rights in our country. And Kanta is definitely one of them. Thanks for joining us. Kishi
Thank
and
you.
I were talking about the importance of space and independence. And the modern Indian woman, and I don't necessarily mean women in urban India, but across the country, are beginning to take notice that they need to ask for their rightful space. But
Sure.
you tell us, how much of this is going to actually help them reach their goal?
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you, Kishi. It's wonderful to be part of the discussion. Sorry, it's an odd hour here. I'm in New York, and sorry if I'm not fully prepared, but it's going to make a huge difference for two reasons. One is that women themselves are realizing their importance in the overall system in the world. There are more voices. They're hearing more voices around them. I think slowly women have also become a political constituency, I would say. And now they see that governments are taking care of their basic needs. I don't say that there's a very serious thought on improving the position, but definitely there is a huge political pressure to improve the condition of women. And I think women are realizing that. But slowly, I think with education, with a lot of awareness, women know that probably time has come when and they have to do little more, but they also can access a lot more from the system itself. So I think it's a very positive development, Shelley.
So, Kanta, as you know, that I'm out with my new book, Sisterhood Economy, and one of the things that I'm constantly asked that why are you writing a book about women and the economy? Isn't that a no-brainer? And to think that in the last decade, there have been perhaps two or three books that have really addressed the issue head on, as opposed to turning research papers into books. We wanted to mainstream the idea that women's economy needs to be a fun and fearless approach for women themselves to recognize that they're very much a part of this. Why do women always get left out from the economic cycle? Because after all, these are not women's things.
Yeah. So Shelley, one, congratulations, you've written a book, and there is a need to write many more books. We haven't even started thinking about these things. So you are one of the pioneers. I'm also saying another thing. Women, women's economic contribution has not been recognized. And I think women have been shown to be beneficiaries. It's high time that we start showing women as contributors. There has to be a data on how much money you put into women, but how much do they get back to the system. That also includes taxes, that also includes the care and unpaid care work, that also means productive work. I think it's time for serious research on women's contribution to the economy. Also, any country today cannot call itself developed unless women are part of every sphere, including economic contribution. Thirdly, what is a no-brainer is that when you're choosing from the 50% of talent pool, you will get just half of what the country has to offer or what the world has to offer. I think women need to be part of every system, including the economic system. And probably this century belongs to women. The McKinsey boss was saying the century belongs to India. I'm saying the century belongs to women. And it's high time that we women realize and start writing everything about it.
Yeah. I'm going to shift deeper into some of the subjects that we try to address. And one subject is the power of how women seeking their own money is a transformational process. So, Kishi, I'll come to you. You're an entrepreneur, you're featured in the book. And you talk about the importance of being able to be an independent woman with her own money, not her dad's money, not her mom's, not her brother's, not her sister's, her own money. Why is this own money piece so critical?
One, because I'm single. That's very important. I mean, I don't have, like, you know how the way it works, the husband takes care of things. I take care of myself. So I'm not dependent on a man. So the point is that it makes me actually the word independent. It really does make me independent. I have my own money. I want to do, like, let's say a long holiday. I can do that. I want to sit at home. I can do that. Makes me independent. Two, it makes me happy. I know that it might sound selfish, but when you make your own money, you are not answerable to anyone, because if someone, God forbid, like tomorrow my mother says, I don't want you around me, leave. I have my own money to go and be in a place of my own. Not that she's saying it, but you should always be prepared. Now, here's my mother, so she might not say it, but if you had a mother in law and if she asked you to do that, then having your own money really helps. So I think money not only makes you independent, but it brings you so much happiness, and the good kind of happiness. You can always look at the worst side, but I want to look at the good side. I'm able to buy whatever I want to buy. I can invest wherever I want to invest. It gives me those wings that I can use to fly, and it really does make me the free bird. Okay, so while you're asking me these questions, I also have a question. I know you've written this book and it's brilliant, and there are a lot of women in it. Is there any specific person in the whole book that you relate to personally, where you feel that this is like my story being told without me putting my name in there? Like, is there any one person in the book that you connect with?
So that's an interesting question for me, Kishi, because for the first time in my life, I've actually put a fair degree of myself and my journey in the book. For the longest time, like many women, I was trying to feel and act boisterous by pushing behind some of the really dire experiences that I had, thinking this is normal for an Indian woman to go through. We normalize the notion that we'll get into a bus and we'll be molested, and oh, this happens all the time. And then we look at workplaces and you see that people ignore you from meetings, or they ask you to do some assignments which are less male centric or whatever, are not perhaps more mainstream, and then you think this is how it is. You just keep justifying to yourself ki aisa hi hota hai. And so I in the book, in many places, have literally put a piece of myself there, because I had the courage to do so after talking to these 500 plus women. When a woman told me about her divorce in her early 20s, and how she was literally sort of ostracized by the society for being so young and not compromising enough and working at that marriage enough and not giving it another chance or enough chances. Or like the woman who I speak to, was a neighbor in Bombay, who left everything to pursue her career, got her daughter along, set up a very important stocks and options segment for a large brokerage firm in India, and continues to do that for the last 10 years. The couple have taken a decision that their individual careers matter to them, and that they will find ways to make the marriage work. So I would think that a lot of these women around me gave me a great deal of courage, which is why I think Sisterhood Economy wasn't written to showcase the traditional achievers we see on the front pages of the Forbes magazine, because we wanted regular women to talk about how their economics matters, right? Or like, for example, I currently live in NCR, and one of the things I always hear from the didis in the beauty parlors, or the
Mm.
didis who are running work from home, come to home masseurs, or beauty service offerers, they all tell me how their entire life has been spent producing babies, if not producing or waiting to produce the son, right? So they end up having 5 kids in the quest of a son. But she says that, when I meet all the women in these complexes, they give me courage. I never thought about that. I never thought that these women were looking more than money as a source of inspiration when they went for jobs in these apartment buildings. And so all of Gurgaon, when these women travel, they come back and say, we get courage because we see other women taking
Yeah.
charge of their life. And aside of the fact that I earn and I have some agency at home, I am able to think differently because of the women I meet. We never think about these things. And so, these things really gave me a very different insight into how I should tell stories, and
Right.
what stories need to be told. Because both Kanta and you would agree, we dis inspiration, leadership, a conversation like this, to think, oh, they're just busy having a conversation. But what
Yeah.
it can do to others, is something we don't even care about. I could literally find inspiration from the woman who's sitting next door to me on a flight, and I would have
Absolutely.
never seen her. Right? I mean, Kanta,
Absolutely.
you meet such women every single
Every
day.
day. Absolutely every day, Shali. And you said it right. In fact, the inspiration is right there in front of your eyes. A maid who got beaten up last night still has the courage to come back next morning to work for you and share her problems. And what is driving her, basically? The man who is beating her every day, or even if he's not beating her, she's trying to provide a better future for her children. She doesn't want her daughter to do the same thing that she's doing. That gives her courage every day. And so we don't have to look out anywhere. The inspiration is right there. Look at our mothers, how they struggled. Look at how our sisters are doing across. A girl who takes up a DTC bus every morning to go to a government office. And I, every time I talk to women, I tell them that if you are a trainer or a teacher in a government industrial training institute, why don't you share your stories with the girls that you're teaching? And they say, ma'am, there's nothing in the story. Kuch hai nahi, baat hi nahi hai. We also did what every woman does. And I said, no, you did not. 25 years back, when you started your career, your husband was a Jawan in the army. Your in-laws were stopping you from going to work. What actually encouraged you to continue working and face the problems at home and at work? when the workspaces were not as kind to women as they are now. I mean, I'm not saying they're kind now, but I'm saying they were much worse that time. And what is it that actually made these women continue working? They said, no, we never thought like that. And I said, please, there's a huge power in storytelling. Please do tell. And Shelley, when you have written the book, and many others who are trying to write books on economy and women's contribution, I think this is a huge service to women and sisterhood that you're talking about, because हम लोग सोचते ही नहीं कि हमारे अंदर भी कहानी है एक, हमारे अपने स्ट्रगल्स हैं जिनसे शायद हमसे सीख के शायद और किसी को थोड़ी सी जान आए बात पे. um, I meet many army wives because I come from an army family who at some stage thought that everything will be provided for, they'll have a glamorous life, and they decided not to work. And after now, when they've reached 40, 45, 50, now they're saying, I want to do what you're doing. And I'm saying, please do. There's no stage when you realize that you need to do something. And I have seen it personally, Shelley, that when you are a housewife, not that you are not doing everything that a family needs, the the way I'm treated is completely different than what I'm being treated now. So, and
Yeah.
when women see
Yeah.
this difference, they realize कि कुछ तो फर्क है. मैं आज न्यूयॉर्क में बैठी हूँ, मैं अपने पैसों से बैठी हूँ, राइट? मैं छुट्टी पे हूँ आज के दिन. How can a woman who's not earning, even if she has money from her parents, she doesn't even have the permission, and they never tried probably. किसी ने पहली बार मना किया और पहली बार इन्होंने रोक दिया. बट मैं जानना चाह रही थी शैली आपसे अगेन, किसी ने पूछा कि आपको पर्सनली किसकी स्टोरी सबसे ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट लगी, लेकिन आपने किस स्टेज पे ये लगा कि अपनी खुद की लाइफ में keep earning money is one of the most critical things for you as a person, or becoming independent, even though your husband or your father can provide for everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what made you think that you need to do something different?
So, my father did not want to provide for me. Now, maybe he just said it,
Mm,
but the fact that he said it, it just took me and my self respect by a storm.
mm,
He said, I cannot afford to figure out I can only educate you. But
mm,
after that, if you want to get educated in an international university, or if you want to pursue a career, I can't pay for your bills while you try and figure out what you're doing. So we didn't have this privilege growing up. It was very clear to us. You grow up, you train yourself at a basic level. Beyond that, you study on your own, you pay your own bills, you take a loan, and you have no other choice. The only thing I think my parents did, which I encourage anyone who can do it, is to try and provide a safe atmosphere for women to at least pursue their careers. हम लोग इस पे इतना ध्यान नहीं देते हैं, but
mm,
actually my parents helped me avoid getting into DTC buses and blue lines, which sort of helped me stay away from the everyday trauma women
mm,
face when they're going in
mm,
public spaces. That to me was a big service. It was almost like, here's an environment, now don't come and complain to me, make your own money. But
right.
that said, I always have had the option to perhaps marry rich like any girl, or
Mm,
seek somebody who would say, no, they'll pay my bills, or do something like that. Uh, and the reason I say this is because this is the truth. Lots of women consider this as an option,
yeah,
like shadi karke kaam karne ki kya zarurat hai, and so on
right.
and so forth.
Uh-huh.
It was not something that I felt was okay, and this is the reason for it. I started working right after school, and I realized that the agency it got me was not the fact that I had to get my own apartment or buy my own car, or whether I wanted to buy a certain diamond. None of that. It just gave me the power to say no. If it
Yeah,
was my own money, I was deciding what to say yes to and what to say no to. And somehow that is really the biggest tool I feel I have, often even more important than my ability to vote as a person. I feel that this gives me the ability to say no when I want, to whoever I want, not show up or show up. All of that is determined for this. In fact, hum log, we are constantly having a conversation of what is feminism.
yeah,
As a modern thought, I feel feminism is nothing but having financial independence to be able to say no.
absolutely, I completely agree with you. In my 30 years of work with women and for women, I realized that this is one of the most critical factors in a woman's life. So, for the last 10 years, Shelley, I was working for political empowerment, I was working for representation of women. I realized that I need to pay more attention to women's economic independence, also property rights. I was talking to my nephew who supported me when I was asking for my property rights. He said, Bua, this is your right. Don't even think about it. Don't ask anybody. Don't explain. Don't justify.
Yeah.
And right. So I'm saying we prepare our girls for marriage and we prepare our boys for careers. That is the basic difference. And if we start paying attention to that, I think it will be hugely important for women. If from very beginning, if we say, like your father did, sometimes my husband now jokes with me saying, hey, just leave the job and work for me. मजाक में कहते होंगे मेरे लिए बहुत भारी है वो शब्द. And I say,
It's
listen,
very
guys,
interesting you said that. There is a
yeah,
story in the same chapter in which we've captured Kishi's story of a woman who actually had to give up even on her marriage because at various points she felt that she was constantly having to. She actually made the choice of working for her husband. And then she realized that her entire economic worth was completely misguided and misrepresented based on having done that. I know we have 3 minutes left on this show, but I just wanted to get closing comments from Kishi and then from you, Kanta. Kishi, like, one other thing that at least I'm hoping I've done with the book is to recognize how talking about women in the economy can be fun. We always
it
show
is, it
women
is.
Betari mode. We have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
break
yeah.
from that, don't we?
Yeah, so I told my mom that I'm in the book, and obviously she read it, and she's like, "तुमने बता दिया कि तुम शादी नहीं करना चाहती हो?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's the big deal?" But here's the really positive part of it. 10 years back, when I came to India, my mom's reaction was, "Kishi, when do you plan to marry? Papa really wants you to marry." Resumes would come of boys. Again, maybe marry rich. But today, the change has happened in her. Her only thing is, Kishi, I want you to be happy. बेटा तुम जो भी करो तुम खुश रहा करो. That's important. If my mother at 60 years can change from that to this, there is hope. Because I feel as they grow older, they're rigid. You don't want to change. So I think there is a positive side to all this also. That if mothers can understand, they were stopping you in DTC buses, तुम मत झगड़ा करो, तुम मत आगे जाओ. Now my mother says, तुम देखो तुम्हारे लिए सही है तो तुम बोलो और नहीं तो मत बोलो, but बोल दो अगर मन कर रहा है तो. There is a change happening. So it's happening in my house. I don't need to step out to get inspiration. If my 60-year-old mom can change, so can I.
But
Yeah,
I have a
Kanta.
very interesting, and I'm sorry I'm taking more time than Kishi. I read a very interesting article recently saying the mothers today in India are pushing their daughters to be financially independent because they don't want them to go through the same cycle
Yes.
that they went through. But they're also putting the buts there saying काम करो अपना लेकिन शादी भी करो बच्चा भी करो इतना पुश भी नहीं कर रही हैं कि women can break the all the barriers, which is okay. I mean, that is acceptable so long as they allow them to first get educated, second they start working. So I think, and Shelley, I'm really interested in what you said, that it gives me a high when I talk about women working. It gives me a high when a woman on a bicycle comes to my house in the morning. मतलब मेरी खुशी का कोई ठिकाना नहीं रहता. Every morning it gives me goosebumps that इसको कोई रोक नहीं सकता है अभी. इसने सोच
Yeah.
लिया है कि मैंने जिंदगी में आगे बढ़ना है. So I'm saying there's a huge power in talking positive about women's struggles and women's independence in that sense. It really
Indeed.
gives me high, but personally.
I want to say thank you for being the medium through whom they can tell a story. It's very important to have the
Yeah,
right medium.
absolutely.
We can portray wrong stories. You're actually doing a service to all the women around,
Of
by
course.
telling them that there is someone who will put a shoulder next to you to cry on. So I think wonderful of you to do that, Shelly.
And somebody
Thank you so
cares.
much.
Somebody's thinking about me. That's so important because nobody paid
Thank you
attention
so
to
much.
us.
That's really what sisterhood is about, right? Supporting one and
Lifting each
many.
other.
We've run out of time, but I really appreciate for both of you for joining me and Kanta for your midnight, early
It's
mornings
2 o'clock
time with
here.
us, 2 o'clock, and Kishi for all your energy and belief in both the book as well as what you've been up to. Thanks so much for joining us.
But
Stay tuned.
congratulations to you also, Shelley, and continue
Shelly.
doing great work. You are an inspiration to young women, trust me, and to
Super.
me also.
The book
Ditto
is
to what
available in
Kanta
all
said.
stores across the country, so please go get your copy and stay
No, I
tuned to
want
the
the
Women
signed copy.
Fest.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Congratulations.